My name is Yara. I'm 28 years old, and I need to tell you about something that happened to me 2 years ago during the rainy season. Something that occurred in the most mundane place imaginable. Something that proved to me that danger doesn't always come from obvious sources. Sometimes it comes from the places you feel the safest. Sometimes it comes from the routines you do every single day without thinking. If you love true horror stories about real survival and moments that will make your skin crawl, hit like and subscribe right now. And keep listening, because the night I went to do laundry will teach you that sometimes the most terrifying moments are the ones that catch you completely unprepared. Sometimes the scariest thing is realizing that someone was watching you when you thought you were completely alone. I need to start by telling you about my life before that night. I was living with my boyfriend Akif in a nice apartment in the city. We had been together for 4 years at that point. We had moved in together about 2 years before this incident. The apartment was comfortable. It wasn't huge, but it had everything we needed. A bedroom, a living room, a kitchen, a bathroom, and a laundry room in the basement. The laundry room was one of those shared facilities that came with the apartment complex. It wasn't just ours. The entire building used it. Probably about 30 apartments in the complex, and they all shared this one laundry room. That meant it was busy during the day. Women coming and going constantly. Washing their clothes, folding their clothes, transferring wet clothes from the washer to the dryer. But at night, it was different. At night, it was mostly empty. Most people did their laundry during the day when other people were around. When it felt safer, when you could hear other people moving around the building, when you weren't alone. But I had developed a habit of doing my laundry at night. I didn't do it intentionally. It was just circumstance. I worked during the day. Akif worked during the day. We both came home tired. By the time we got home, cooked dinner, ate, and cleaned up, it was already evening. The laundry would pile up. Days would go by. A week would go by. Then suddenly I would look at the mountain of dirty clothes in the corner of our bedroom and I would panic. I couldn't wait any longer. So I would do the laundry at night, after dinner, after we had relaxed a bit, while Akif watched television or read or did whatever he did in the evenings. I would take the laundry basket and head downstairs to the laundry room. The laundry room was in the basement of the building. It was a long hallway with 5 washing machines on one side and 5 dryers on the other side. The lighting was fluorescent and harsh. There were no windows. It was a cement room with a concrete floor. The walls were painted a pale yellow that had become dingy over the years. It smelled like detergent and mildew and something else that I could never quite identify. To get to the laundry room, you had to walk down a long hallway from the main building, down a set of stairs, and through another hallway. If you were alone, it felt isolated. It felt far from everything else. It felt like you were disconnected from the rest of the building, but I never felt unsafe there. Not really. It was just a laundry room. Just a utilitarian space. Just a place where people washed their clothes. I would go there at least twice a week. I'd become familiar with it. I knew where everything was. I knew the sounds it made, the hum of the machines, the occasional beep when a cycle finished, the rushing of water. It had become routine, mindless. I would grab my laundry basket, head downstairs, separate my clothes into the washers, add detergent, insert coins, and set the machines to run. Then I would either sit and wait or go back upstairs and come back down when the cycle finished. This particular night was like any other night. It was during the rainy season. The weather had been terrible for the past week. Constant rain, dark skies, The kind of weather that made you want to stay inside where it was warm and dry. I had told Akif earlier that evening that I needed to do laundry. I had a lot piled up. I couldn't put it off any longer. My work clothes were running out. My casual clothes were disappearing. We were down to wearing things twice before washing. Akif had suggested that we watch a movie together that night, a romantic comedy that he knew I liked. He'd already downloaded it and had it ready to go. He was planning to wait for me. He said we could watch it once I finished the laundry. He said it shouldn't take too long. Just do the wash cycle transfer to the dryer and come back upstairs. He was right. It should have been quick. The wash cycle was 30 minutes. The dry cycle was 45 minutes. I could easily have it done in an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours at most. Then we could watch the movie together. I remember we were in the bedroom when I told him I was going to do the laundry. He was lying on the bed in his casual clothes, just relaxing. He smiled at me and asked me to hurry. He said he wanted to watch the movie with me. He said, "Don't take too long." I remember feeling a little annoyed at that, like he was being impatient, like he didn't think my laundry was important. But I let it go. I kissed him on the forehead and headed out to gather my clothes. I spent about 15 minutes collecting all the dirty clothes from around the apartment. From the bedroom, from the bathroom, from the living room where Akif had tossed his work shirt. I had quite a bit. The basket was full, almost overflowing. I had definitely waited too long to do laundry. I carried the basket out of the apartment and headed downstairs. The stairwell was quiet. There were no other sounds except for the rain outside beating against the windows. I could hear it even from inside, the steady rhythm of the rain. Pitter-patter, pitter-patter. When I got to the basement, I pushed open the heavy door to the laundry room. The fluorescent lights flickered on automatically as I entered. They always took a moment to fully illuminate. There was a second of darkness, and then the lights hummed to life. The laundry room was empty, completely empty. Just me and the machines. I had expected that. It was late evening. Most people had finished their laundry for the day. I was alone. I started separating my clothes into different piles. Whites, darks, delicates. I was humming to myself as I worked. Just a random tune. I don't remember what song it was, just something to keep myself company in the quiet room. I loaded the first washer with whites, added detergent, set the cycle. The machine rumbled to life. The water started filling. The sound was reassuring somehow, familiar. I loaded the second washer with darks. Did the same thing, set the cycle. Both machines were now running. I sat down on the bench that was attached to the wall. The bench was old and uncomfortable, but it was there if you wanted to wait for your laundry. Most people didn't wait. Most people went back upstairs and came back down later. I decided to wait. I had my phone with me. I could scroll through social media or check emails or just relax and wait for the cycle to finish. I was sitting there looking at my phone when I heard something from upstairs, a muffled sound. I couldn't quite make out what it was. It sounded like footsteps, maybe, or furniture being moved. I didn't think much about it. The apartment building had lots of residents. Someone was always doing something. About 10 minutes into the wash cycle, I got bored sitting in the basement. The laundry room was not an exciting place to be. The machines were loud. The smell was getting to me. I decided to go back upstairs and wait in the apartment. I could come back down when the cycle was almost finished. I headed back upstairs. The hallway was quiet. The stairwell was quiet. Everything was quiet except for the sound of the rain outside. When I got back to the apartment, I found Akif in the living room. He was setting up the laptop to watch the movie. He had already pulled up the file and was getting it ready to play. He looked up when I came in. He asked me how long the laundry would take. I told him the wash cycle had about 20 minutes left. Then I would need to transfer everything to the dryer, and the dry cycle would take about 45 minutes. So probably an hour total, maybe a little more. He nodded and said okay. He said he would wait. We could watch the movie once the laundry was done. In the meantime, he was going to prepare some snacks. He wanted to make popcorn, maybe some nachos. I told him that sounded good. I went into the bedroom and lay down on the bed for a few minutes, just to relax. I was tired from work. The day had been long. I was looking forward to the movie, a chance to just sit and watch something and not think about anything. But I kept thinking about the laundry, about the wash cycle. I didn't want to miss when it finished. If I missed it and left wet clothes sitting in the washer too long, they would start to smell. They would get musty. I would have to re-wash them. After about 15 minutes, I got up and headed back downstairs. I needed to check on the laundry. The basement door was heavy. It required a good pull to open. I pulled it open and walked down the hallway toward the laundry room. When I entered the laundry room, the machines were still running. The wash cycle had a few minutes left. I could see the water sloshing around inside the machines. The sound was the same familiar sound. Water swishing, clothes tumbling. I decided to wait this time. I didn't want to go back upstairs and back down again. I would just wait until the cycle finished and then transfer the clothes immediately. I sat on the bench and waited. I was looking at my phone again, just scrolling through random things, not really paying attention to anything, just killing time. The fluorescent lights above me were humming, that constant hum that you almost stop noticing after a while. Almost. And then I heard something, a sound from somewhere else in the building. It sounded like a door closing, hard, like someone had slammed a door. It echoed through the basement hallway. I looked up from my phone. I was listening intently now. Had someone else come down to do laundry? Was there someone else in the building? I waited, but I didn't hear anything else. Maybe someone had just closed a door on one of the upper floors. The building was old. Sounds traveled. A door closing on the second floor might echo down to the basement. The wash cycles finished. The machines beeped. One long beep from each machine, a signal that the cycle was complete. I got up and started transferring wet clothes from the washers to the dryers. I did this methodically. Clothes from washer 1 into dryer 1, clothes from washer 2 into dryer 2. I was focused on the task at hand. I wasn't really thinking about anything. Just load the dryer, add quarters, set the temperature, press start. But I was starting to feel something. Something I couldn't quite put my finger on. A slight unease. A feeling that wasn't quite normal. Like something was off. Like something wasn't right. I told myself I was being paranoid. There was nothing wrong. I was just alone in a basement doing laundry. It was completely normal. Completely routine. The dryers started, their dials spinning, their settings confirmed. I had about 45 minutes before they would be finished. I decided to go back upstairs this time. I didn't want to sit in the basement anymore. I wanted to be back in the apartment with Akif. I wanted to be in a place that felt comfortable, felt safe. I headed back upstairs. The hallway was still quiet. The stairwell was still quiet. When I got back to the apartment, I found Akif in the living room. He had made the popcorn. It was sitting in a large bowl on the coffee table. He had also prepared some nachos, chips with cheese and jalapenos, our favorite. He looked at me and smiled. He asked if the laundry was going. I said yes. The dry cycle was running. We had about 45 minutes before it would be finished. He nodded and said perfect. That gave us time to watch part of the movie before I had to go back down and check on it. We settled onto the couch together. He started the movie. The opening credits began to play. I tried to focus on the screen, tried to get into the story, but my mind was still on the laundry. I was thinking about the clothes in the dryer. I was thinking about how much time had passed. I was thinking about whether I would need to go back down soon. About 20 minutes into the movie, I started to feel anxious. I was worried that I had lost track of time, that the laundry had finished and I hadn't gone to get it, that the clothes would wrinkle in the dryer if they sat too long. I told Akif that I needed to go back down and check on the laundry. I told him I would only be gone a few minutes. I would just make sure the dry cycle had finished and transfer the clothes to the basket. He said okay. He paused the movie for me. He said, "Don't take too long." He wanted to watch the movie with me. I headed back downstairs. This time I was moving faster. I was a little annoyed that I had to interrupt the movie, but I needed to get the laundry. It was important. When I reached the basement, I went directly to the laundry room. I pushed open the heavy door. The fluorescent lights came on. The room was empty. Everything was as I had left it. The dryers were still running. The spin cycles still going. The clothes still tumbling inside. I waited for the machines to finish. They had about 10 minutes left. I could wait. I stood there in the quiet laundry room, just waiting, listening to the sound of the machines, the tumbling, the spinning. Then I heard it. A sound from somewhere in the basement hallway, a sound that wasn't the machines. It sounded like footsteps. Slow footsteps. Like someone was walking down the hallway, toward the laundry room. I listened carefully. The footsteps were getting closer. They were definitely coming toward the laundry room. My heart started beating a little faster. Who would be in the basement at this time? It was late evening. Most people would be in their apartments by now. Who would be down here? The footsteps stopped. They were right outside the laundry room door, just on the other side. I was standing there with my back to the door. I didn't turn around. I was just waiting, listening. The door didn't open. Nothing happened. The footsteps were gone, or they were standing just outside, waiting. I felt my skin prickle. That unease I'd felt earlier was back. Stronger now. More intense. I turned around slowly. I looked at the door. Nothing. The door was closed. The small window in the door showed the hallway beyond, but I couldn't see anyone. There was no one visible in the hallway. Maybe the footsteps were from someone else in the building. Maybe they had walked past the laundry room. Maybe they were heading somewhere else. I tried to tell myself that. I tried to calm down, but something wasn't right. I could feel it. The dryers finished. The machines beeped, their cycles complete. I started unloading the clothes quickly. I was moving faster now. I wanted to get out of the laundry room. I wanted to get back upstairs. I wanted to be back in the apartment with Akif. I was pulling warm clothes out of the dryers and tossing them into my laundry basket. Shirts, pants, underwear, socks. Everything just going into the basket in a jumbled mess. And then I heard something that made my blood run cold. a sound that came from directly outside the laundry room, in the hallway, just beyond the door. It was the sound of someone breathing, heavy breathing, like someone was standing right there, on the other side of the door, breathing. I froze. My hands were still full of clothes. My heart was pounding in my chest. The breathing continued. I could hear it clearly. It was definitely there. Definitely real. Someone was standing outside the laundry room. Someone was waiting on the other side of the door. I slowly lowered my hands. I let the clothes I was holding fall into the basket. I was facing away from the door. I was terrified to turn around, terrified to see who was out there. The breathing continued, heavy, deliberate, like whoever it was wanted me to know they were there, like they were trying to scare me. I did the only thing I could think of. I called out, I yelled, I said loudly, "Akif, Akif." My voice echoed in the small laundry room. The sound of his name bounced off the concrete walls, but there was no response. No sound from upstairs. Just silence. The breathing from the hallway stopped. Whoever had been standing outside the door was gone. I didn't waste any time. I grabbed my laundry basket with all my clothes still half folded and half wet inside. I didn't care about the clothes anymore. I didn't care if they wrinkled. I just wanted to get out of that laundry room. I rushed toward the door. I yanked it open and looked out into the hallway. There was no one there. The hallway was empty. Completely empty. But I could hear footsteps moving away, down the hallway, away from the laundry room, moving quickly. Someone had been there. Someone had been standing outside the laundry room door. Someone had been breathing on the other side. I ran. I ran up the stairs with my laundry basket. My heart was pounding. My breath was coming in short gasps. When I reached the apartment, I burst through the door. I was panicking. I could barely speak. I called out for Akif. I found him in the living room, still on the couch. He was just sitting there. The movie was still paused. I asked him frantically. I said, "Did you hear me calling? I called you so many times down in the laundry room. I needed you. I was scared." He looked confused. He said, "What are you talking about?" He said he didn't hear me calling. He said the door to the basement was closed. He said he wouldn't have been able to hear me even if I was yelling. I told him that someone was down in the basement. Someone was standing outside the laundry room. Someone was watching me while I was doing laundry. He looked shocked. He asked me if I was sure. He asked me if I had actually seen someone. I said no, I hadn't seen them. But I heard them. I heard their breathing. I heard their footsteps. Akif got up immediately. He said we needed to check the kitchen door. We needed to make sure it was locked. We needed to secure the apartment. I remember he rushed to the kitchen. He checked the door that led from the kitchen to the basement stairwell. He pulled the handle and then turned the deadbolt. He locked it firmly. But then he said something that made my stomach drop. He said the door wasn't locked before. He said he hadn't locked it when I went downstairs to do laundry. That meant anyone in the basement could have come up into our apartment. Anyone could have come upstairs while I was down there doing laundry, while I was distracted, while I was alone. Akif called the building security. He called the police. He gave them the information. He explained what had happened. The police came within 20 minutes. They searched the building. They searched the basement. They searched the hallway. They searched the laundry room, but they didn't find anyone. There was no one in the building. There were no signs of forced entry. There was no evidence that anyone had been in the laundry room. one of the officers asked me what I had heard exactly. I described the breathing, the footsteps, the presence of someone on the other side of the door. The officer listened carefully, and then he asked me if I was sure. He asked me if maybe I'd imagined it, if maybe the stress of being alone had made me paranoid. But I knew what I had heard. I knew what I had felt. Someone had been there. Someone had been in the basement. Someone had been watching me while I did my laundry. The police eventually left. They said they would increase patrols in the building. They said to keep the doors locked. They said to call them if anything else happened. O'Keefe and I didn't watch the movie that night. We just sat on the couch together. Neither of us wanted to be alone. Neither of us felt safe. I never did find out who was in the basement that night. I never found out who had been breathing on the other side of the laundry room door. I never found out if someone had come upstairs into our apartment while I was alone. What I do know is that the laundry room never felt the same again. The building never felt the same again. For months after that night, I refused to go to the laundry room. O'Keefe had to do all the laundry. I couldn't face going back down there. I couldn't face being alone in that basement. Eventually, I got over the fear enough to go back to the laundry room. But I never went alone. I always made sure someone was in the apartment. Someone was nearby. Someone I could call if I needed them. And I never forgot that sound. That heavy breathing just outside the door. The sound of someone waiting for me. The sound of someone watching. To this day, I still don't know who it was. The police never found anyone. The building manager never reported any incidents. It was like it had never happened. But it happened. I know it happened. And whoever was in that basement that night is still out there somewhere.